watching the clock. Okay, it is 4:30, and if we're ready, I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Cisco is absent today. Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson is
Present.
thank you. And Vice Chair Duggan.
Here.
Chair Weeks. Let the record reflect that all chairs are present with the exception of Commissioner Cisco.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to item 2, approval of minutes. We have the April 11th minutes. Are there any changes, corrections? Okay, then if there are none, they will be approved as amended, and we will go through the public comment on this. Is there anybody who would have a public comment on item 2, approval of minutes? Seeing no one rise, we will go ahead and move on to item 3, public comment. So this is public comment on non-agenda matters. This is a time when any person may address the commission on matters not listed on the agenda, but which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. If there's anybody who would like to make comment, please go to one of the podiums. Seeing no one rise, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion and move on to commission business. So our statement of purpose is that we are charged with carrying out the California planning and zoning laws in the city of Santa Rosa. Duties include implementing of plans, ordinances, and policies relating to land use matters, assisting in writing and implementing the general plan and area plans, holding public hearings, and acting on proposed changes to the zoning code, zoning map, general plan, tentative subdivision maps, and undertaking special planning studies as needed. So with that, we'll move on to item 4.2, commissioner reports. Commissioner Sanders?
Yes, all I have to say is that the Rose Parade is coming back May 18th. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty proud of that. And I just want to thank the city for all the work that they've done to help us get the parade back from its COVID hiatus. I've learned that it is the second or first, depending on who you ask, who you want to arm wrestle with, oldest parade in California. We date back to 1893. Was our first Rose Carnival, is what we called it back then. And Pasadena, they generally take the mantle for being the oldest, but you know, it depends on who you ask. Though I do would love to say that the person who is responsible for the Pasadena Rose Parade, one of the people that organizes that, actually lives here in Hillsburg. So there you go. May 18th, 10 o'clock. See you there.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, well, I would like to mention the Merit Awards are now available to nominate anybody who you think is deserving of a Merit Award, and would be somebody or an organization that is all volunteer that does work in Santa Rosa. The applications are open until the beginning of June. So with that, I will open public comment on this. If there's anybody who'd like to make public comment, go to the podium. Seeing no one rise, I will go ahead and close a public comment on this, and we'll move on to department report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Weeks, members of the Commission. I don't have much for you tonight other than to let you know that, as you can see, Ashley Crocker, our Assistant City Attorney who normally attends, is not here this evening. She is at a conference. So in her place on Zoom, we have a member from BWS, which is our outside attorneys. And I apologize, Layla, I'm going to butcher your last name. I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself before I do that.
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Layla Moshref Dinesh with Burke Williams and Sorensen. and I've reviewed the agenda and the matters before you tonight, and I'm happy to answer any legal questions should any come up.
Great. Thank you, Layla, and I would have butchered that, so thank you. And
Thank you.
that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. And before we go to public comment on staff briefings, or staff report, which I doubt if there will be any, I did want to mention that our very own Jessica Jones is going to be the guest speaker at League of Women Voters Sonoma County monthly meeting on May 20th at 5:30 via Zoom. If anybody's interested, you could go to the League of Women Voters Sonoma County website or contact me, and I can make sure you get the Zoom link. Jessica's going to talk about what is a general plan. So thank you very much for doing that, Jess. So with that, we'll open the public comment portion of this meeting. For the item department report, if you have any comment, please go to the podium. Seeing no one rise, we'll move on to statement of abstentions. Are there any abstentions tonight? Thank goodness. Move on to presentations, and we'll start with Tarina Wilson, who's our transportation planner, and it is the Santa Rosa Active Transportation Plan update. Thank you.
That is correct. Sharing here. Present mode. See, you would think it would get easier. It's been 4 years, but that's okay. So good evening, Chair Weeks and Commissioners. My name is Torina Wilson. I am the City of Santa Rosa's Transportation Planner, and today I'm presenting on the city's Active Transportation Plan update, which is an update to the 2018 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. This is a document that we update approximately every 5 to 8 years, has been our track record at this point. And what that plan is essentially, it's a long-range plan, but it's essentially a long list of projects and programs that city staff implements over time. And it includes things like sidewalk improvements, bike lane improvements. It's anything that has to do with active transportation, which includes walking, biking, and rolling. The reason that we're updating this plan's name to be Active Transportation Plan is to be a little more in line with national guidance or what a lot of other jurisdictions are doing, and because it's more inclusive. So if you have Active Transportation Plan, it also encompasses the rolling mode. So it's folks who use wheelchairs, who use scooters or skateboards. It could even be inclusive of something like a parent pushing a stroller. So it's a lot more inclusive. This plan, this updated plan, is going to focus primarily on low stress facilities that are for people of all ages and abilities. And that's another way in which the city is following national guidance. And so we have understood at a national level and now at a local level that the best way to really push mode shift towards more sustainable and active forms of transportation is by making sure that you're putting in infrastructure that legitimately everybody can use, from, you know, the moment that they can walk or ride a bike until the moment that they may not be able to anymore. And it also includes things like access to transit. So we work pretty closely with our public transit providers to make sure that we're considering things like access to transit stops, making sure that anyone who does depend on public transportation is able to get to it, right? As part of this plan, we have a ton of public outreach we're going to be doing, and we do have an express focus on equity priority communities, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a moment. But there's a huge outreach campaign that's going to be part of this project. I'm actually in phase 1 of that public outreach campaign, and again, I'll talk about that in just a moment. This slide shows you the scope of work, and so this happens to be the last of my first round of updates to various advisory bodies. So when I was first presenting, I was at the beginning, and now I'm kind of like halfway down the list. So I'm excited to now report that we have a lot more findings than we have at other presentations that I've been at. But as part of this work, we have the standard task 1, ongoing project management and coordination. Task 2 is existing conditions and data collection. This task is actually complete. On this slide, you notice that task 2 is the only one that has a subtask, and it's called active trip potential. It's something that I personally like to highlight because I think it's really interesting, but it's something that's also new to this plan. So active trip potential is an analysis of where there are trips happening in the city right now by vehicle that we have a pretty easy chance of switching to active transportation. So that might be someone who lives perhaps 3/4 of a mile from downtown, and they want to go hang out downtown, get a bite to eat for dinner, but they take their car. And instead, if we focused on making sure that there is low stress infrastructure between where that person lives and downtown, they could more feasibly switch that trip to walking or biking. So the existing conditions analysis, which, like I said, is complete, has a section that focuses on active trip potential and gives the city a little bit of guidance on where we could focus certain types of improvements so we could really get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of putting in infrastructure where we could pretty quickly see a shift in transportation. Task 3 is public engagement. I'm going to talk about that again in a moment. Task 4, goals and objectives. We currently have a set of working draft goals and objectives, which I will go over in a moment. Task 5 is where we're going to take all of the input that we receive in the first part of the project, so the existing conditions and the first phase of public outreach, and we turn that into a list of recommended projects and programs. So we're going to say, hey, here's what we heard from the community, here's how we're translating it into something tangible, and then we'll go back to the community and say, did we get it right? Did we hear you correctly? Is there anything that you feel like we need to be shifting? And then task 6 is coalescing everything into the final document. This here is the working draft vision and goals. I will not read the whole slide, it is very long. And since creating this PowerPoint, this is actually shifted. So I want to focus on the fact that I call these working draft vision and goals, because these are all of the things that we're focusing on in the plan. None of these things are going to go away, but as we learn more information and we're conducting the plan, there are going to be some things that shift. So for instance, one thing that has shifted is we're hearing continually that safety in the facilities that we're putting in is really the #1 thing that we should be considering at this point. And so the only change that's really happened at this point is that we've put a higher emphasis on safety, although none of the other things have gone away. For our community engagement, again, we've already started, so this slide is a little bit outdated at this point, but we do have a community engagement plan. It's essentially a roadmap to what we're going to be doing the entire time. And it's split into 2 phases. So phase 1, which we're in right now, is called discovery. And that's where we're asking the community to tell us what are their existing conditions, where do they have barriers that we do or maybe do not know about, where are their destinations that they'd like to be going to that they potentially can't get to. We're also asking people what we're doing right. So what are we doing that you really enjoy or that you think you would like us to do more of? Because if we know those things, we know what type of things to duplicate. Phase 2 is going to be, like I said, where we coalesce all of that information and we turn that into a list of recommended projects and programs. That's when phase 2 of outreach is going to happen. And again, like I said, that's where we go back to the community. We say, this is what you told us. Did we get it right? So the community is going to have another opportunity, or I should say, a first pass opportunity at refining the list of projects and programs. As part of each of these phases, and currently happening right now, are all of the bottom bullets of this slide. So we have a project webpage. We have an online interactive map, which is live right now. We're doing various meetings with advisory bodies. I'm doing this round right now as a heads up. We're doing public outreach, and then I'll be coming back again later this year with, hey, we have a list of draft projects and programs. What do you think of them? We're hosting a series of pop-up events. We're hosting a public workshop, and we are going to be doing stakeholder meetings. So for each phase of public outreach, there's going to be 2 stakeholder meetings, and we're just in the beginning planning stages of this phase's stakeholder meetings. Here is the branding and the logo. So on the left, you see the logo. I would say 75% of people get it immediately, but then 25% don't. So I do like to explain why the last letter of this word looks a little funny. And the reason is because a lot of our materials are translated into Spanish. There's really nothing that we have at this point that is not translated into Spanish. And we chose the word active for the active transportation plan as the slogan word, because when you translate into Spanish, all you need to do is switch the last letter. And so the reason that the E/A looks a little funny is because it's easily translatable. On the right-hand side is the color scheme. One thing that we're doing as part of this plan is we made sure that the logo does not explicitly say active transportation plan, because once the plan's adopted, I want to still be able to use the logo. One part of the work that my department does is behavior change, and it's community outreach. And it's something that we need to do a better job of. And I want to be sure that my department has a community-facing public identity, and over time they will recognize who we are and what we do and what we're asking of them, which is try to get out of your cars as much as you can. Well, let's work together to make that happen. So this logo is something that you'll be seeing quite a bit for the next, I don't know, until I get a new logo. So in terms of public outreach, I want to focus on who we're going to be talking to, and frankly who we're already talking to since we've started the public outreach. And this slide I find funny because I highlight who we're talking to, but there's nobody that I'm not going to talk to. There's not going to be anybody who comes to my booth and I say, oh, I don't want to engage with you. It's literally everybody who spends any amount of time in the city of Santa Rosa. I want to know what that experience is like. I want to know the experience even for people who don't walk or bike and who may never consider walking or biking, because if somebody's interacting with our streets, even if it's with a vehicle, I need to know how to keep people who are walking and biking safe, right? How to slow cars down, how to put a little bit more barrier between them and cars. But there are specific populations that we do really need to speak to and need to make sure that we're doing it in a really meaningful way and a way that's going to get us the information that we're going to need. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I outline some of those people. Those are folks who live within equity priority communities, people who rely on active transportation or public transportation, right? So folks who might be a little bit more vulnerable, they don't have the option to drive, so they're forced to either walk, bike, roll, or use public transit. And then I also want to talk to people who would consider active transportation or public transportation and haven't for whatever reason. So that could be a parent who really, really wants their child to walk to school, but maybe there's a gap in the sidewalk and they're not going to send their child because they don't want their child to walk in the road. On the right-hand side of the screen, I have a couple demographics that can sometimes be hard for us to reach. And there's a long list of reasons why any one of these demographics could be hard to reach. And so we're partnering really closely with several nonprofits and partner agencies to really increase the amount that we're able to engage with these demographics. One example is we've had some meetings with the Council on Aging. And so we're getting materials out to several folks as part of food distribution events, at various lunches and things like that. That is really the end of my presentation. There's a ton of information. I could talk about this for hours. I'm really passionate about it. And, you know, there's not really any action for you to take here. I just want you to know about the project. Historically, I think when we've done these updates, we haven't done a full presentation to the Planning Commission, but I wanted to do it this time because you're really plugged into your community, and I think that everybody here is an asset, whether you're on the Planning Commission or you're listening. We really need people to spread the word. I really need people to take the online interactive survey or to attend one of the in-person events. Something that I repeat constantly is that I can't do my job well if I don't know where there's issues, right? And I need to know where the issues are. Another thing is we always encourage people to write their comments down. I get a lot of comments from people saying, oh, well, you know, the government moves slow, and how do I know that my comment's gonna be taken down? We take every comment down, but one thing that really stands out is when we hear the same comment many times, that project moves to the top of the list. So if you have one neighborhood who really rallies behind a safety project, right, that's something where we say, oh wow, there's 100 people who really need this, and we can help push it up the ladder a little bit. So that is something that I have found has been helpful in increasing outreach with folks. So my ask of you today is if you're able to help spread the project webpage, which is on this slide. There's an updated URL that I did not put on this slide, but it is www.srcity.org/ATP. So it's a really short link that you can give out to folks. If they're on that webpage, the online interactive survey is there. The final draft of the existing conditions is there if anyone wants to take a look. And then we also have the list of all of the in-person outreach events. There are two specific ones I want to highlight that I'm really excited about. One of them, and I brought flyers if anyone wants to pass them out, is a bike-in block party, which is next Thursday. So the city of Santa Rosa is working with Bikeable Santa Rosa, and we're shutting down a portion of 4th Street between B and Courthouse Square, and we're having a block party, and it's gonna be a blast. So if any of you want to attend, I would love to see you there. If you wanna spread the word, please do. I have the flyers here, I'm gonna leave them. They're in English and Spanish. The second event I wanna highlight is 2 weeks from now, so May 23rd is our formal community workshop, and that's gonna be at the Sonoma Clean Power Advanced Energy Center. They're renaming it to the Customer Care Center, I want to say, so you might need to Google both. But it's on 4th Street, and it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. And that's what I have.
Great. Fun information. Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you. Can you explain what integrate Vision Zero principles in all transportation planning activities? What is that?
That is another way of saying that we're going to integrate safety into everything that we do. So Vision Zero is an initiative that started, I think it started in Europe, and it's become really popular in the United States too, where jurisdictions are adopting a goal of having zero collisions between cars and bicycles and pedestrians, and also just vehicle on vehicle as well. So Vision Zero is fully eliminating every collision from happening, with an express focus on walking and biking or anyone who's out on the streets and vulnerable. And the goal there is that every project we put in would be of a caliber where it would stop collisions from happening. And it could be a lot of things. It could be separating walking and biking modes from vehicles. So like just out here, Santa Rosa Avenue that we put in, that's one way of doing it. The creek trail system, that's another way of doing it. But other tactics include traffic calming. So if there maybe isn't the right of way to put in a bike lane, or even where there is, you can slow traffic down. You can, there's a lot of tactics you can use to help keep people safe.
So I guess the concept of Vision Zero is no collisions.
Correct. And I should say, the county, the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, adopted in 2022, they call it the Vision Zero Action Plan. And our council, at the same time as that adoption, adopted a subset of that document called the Santa Rosa Vision Zero Implementation Plan. It's a very long name. So in 2022, we did adopt a Vision Zero implementation plan. So we have that, and it'll be incorporating some of the ideas in that document into the active transportation plan.
Very cool. And one last question. Under who is the audience and general characteristics, I'm not sure what number slide that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess. Why wouldn't general characteristics just be everyone who lives here? Why enumerate, and separate, EPCs, and it's for everyone who lives here. We're trying to get them into active transportation.
Yeah.
So why parse it out?
Absolutely, and I didn't really need to. And that's why I wanted to start the slide by saying I didn't want to give the impression that there's anybody I wouldn't talk to. The only issue here is that there are certain people in the community who do not feel that we've spoken with them, or who feel as if when we have spoken to them, nothing has really come from it. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of reasons that that could happen. Government can move slowly sometimes, or some projects are not as prioritized over others, and so folks might think, oh, I make a comment and then nothing ever happens. Or neighborhoods like equity priority communities are historically disenfranchised, and there can be some distrust. And so when we are doing outreach, to make it fruitful and meaningful, you have to make sure that you're speaking to folks who may not know that they are important to the system. And so even though everybody is the goal, you have to have an express goal of engaging with people who you may not usually hear from.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Carter.
More of a comment than a question. Really intrigued by this active trip potential analysis you're going to undertake. I'm hoping it can result in specific actions that we might take on projects to actually, a trip potential is a potential to reduce a vehicle trip. So translating trip potentials to actual reduction in VMTs, I'd love to see something along those lines. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes, also more of a comment than a question here. I appreciate the work, and I think it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. I think this is a chance to think big, and using my own active trip potential experience. I live 1.5 miles from downtown. I don't want myself or my 2-year-old killed by a car, so I drive. And I think when we're looking at flat budgets, when we're looking at what's happening in Santa Clara with a $600 million infrastructure deficit, the bigger we think with this, with getting people out of cars, I think it will pay long-term dividends. And I think really it's a war on cars that we need. I appreciate the position you're in, but I think getting people out of cars is challenging, and all you have to look at is Culver City installing and now removing bus rapid transit and protected bike lanes to do that. But I think unless we really shift the incentives for driving versus other modes of transportation, it's just not going to be enough. And I think our AICP award-winning planning department is up to the task, and you've certainly got my support. But I think aim big is my feedback.
Will do.
Vice Chair Duggan.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and some comments. So as far as the equity priority communities, is there a map online on the website that shows where those are exactly?
There's not a map. If you do Google equity priority communities, those will come up. Although if you look up the the Active Transportation Plan webpage, there's a link to the final existing conditions report. And in that report, it's very lengthy, but in that report is already the analysis of all of the equity priority communities, all of our city demographics. It has a breakdown of how many people are already walking and biking versus not. So the EPCs are in there, and just a ton more information too.
I will just add to that we do have a map of the equity priority areas in our draft general plan, so that will be in the final general plan and something that we'll get on our city's GIS, so it will be available to the public.
And also, as far as outreach, I know they're not specifically your target audience, but have you contacted like the Santa Rosa Cycling Club, the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, and Bikeable Santa Rosa to put out on their email lists, you know, direct them to the survey and have them?
Oh yeah, we are all over.
Good.
So we have,
I think the people who already bike are the ones that can tell you where the problem areas are.
yes, definitely. So we're partnering with them. We partner with the Bike Coalition and with Bikeable Santa Rosa really closely. So our relationship with them goes pretty far beyond just like being in their newsletters. And then for the outreach, we have a list of something like 15 other nonprofits that we've been working with. So there's some new ones that I wasn't even familiar with where we're getting on their newsletter. And there's some other ones, like we were working with the Common Ground Society to go to their speaker series and speak with young adults and children who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's been another really interesting opportunity where, again, we're engaging with a group of folks who in the past, I don't know if we've spoken with them as part of these processes.
Okay, and then as far as my comments go, I have a short list here. The first one is, so one existing facility we have is Humboldt Bike Boulevard. And as far as I know, I don't think it's ever been revisited to see if it actually really substantially increased the number of cyclists on the roadway and decreased the number of cars on the road. And I think that should be revisited and maybe new treatments added to it as being our, I think, our one existing bike boulevard. Let's see, and I also think like any location that's slated for a buffered class 2 or a protected class 2 that's near a street, near, you know, traffic that's going more than 30, 35 miles an hour should be protected. And also this my personal experience a couple days ago, riding up East Street at the nice buffered bike lane, I happened to get to the middle school at pickup time, like early dismissal time. You couldn't ride in the bike lane. Everybody was parked there. There was a line of cars all the way from the curve in the road to the corner. So I think you have to identify the locations where these potential buffered and or protected class 2s are, and if they're at a location like a library or a school where you're expecting traffic like that, you have to put bollards up so people can't park in them. And that might be my only comment, except for I am planning on going next Thursday, and I didn't realize it was a city-sponsored event, so I'll be there. Thank you.
And I just have one question, and you might have covered this and I didn't hear it. What's the time frame?
I did not cover that. Thank you for pointing that out. We're looking at adoption in March 2025. We would have, right now we're anticipating that we have the draft list of projects and programs in the fall. So we think we'll be coming back for public outreach around September, October. And then after we get that input, we will refine that list. And then we go through an entire prioritization exercise. So one of the things we put in the scope with our consultant is that in the end, there will be an implementation table. This is standard. So you have an implementation table where you have the whole list of all of the projects and programs. And our intention is that this time there's also columns, and under the columns we'll have information that denotes what type of characteristics the project would promote or support. So is it on the high-end network? Is it within a half mile of a school? Is it within an equity priority community? You know, there's going to be a long list of criteria. That process will happen after the next phase of public engagement, and then again, adoption is anticipated for March of next year.
Great, thank you very much. So with that, we will go ahead and open the public comment period. Seeing someone up there at the podium, if you could please state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eris Weaver. I'm the Executive Director of the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. Happy to see that this whole process is moving along. I have a question, a couple comments, and a correction. I actually took the opportunity to read the entire existing conditions report and have a couple of very small questions and comments about that. One of them, and Tarina, I'm happy to hand these notes to you rather than trying to write them all down if that is helpful. Table 7 has a list of existing and proposed facilities by class, but what's not clear in the legend for that is, are those existing in the previous, the 2018 plan, or these existing now in 2024? And then are the proposed facilities the ones that were proposed in 2018, or are they the ones that are being proposed now, even though the rest of the report isn't finished? So that would be helpful information for understanding that table. The vision and goals, I always think this about all the plans. The visions and goals are too long, too complicated. You won't be able to, at least the vision part. Then there are several places, several pages throughout the existing conditions that I think the numbers and the narrative don't match. So, for example, most bicyclists involved collisions, 54% occurred along roadways with posted speeds under 34 miles an hour. 54% is about half. I wouldn't say most at that number, right? If you say half or you say most, that paints a different picture of what's happening. And there's several places there where the breakdown is fairly close, 53, 47 or things like that, and the wording will say most or over half or things like that, which I don't think paints an accurate picture verbally, what the numbers say. On page 55, there's talking about connecting the public transit connections, and mentions the transit mall and connecting with various transit agencies, including Mendocino, Greyhound, Golden Gate, Sonoma County Transit, and the SMART train. But that makes it sound like those things are all next to each other. All of those other ones are, but the SMART train station is half a mile away, and it's an ugly walk. It's not a intuitive or necessarily pleasant walk, and I think that deserves to be mentioned as part of that, as a challenge to people switching between the two transit modes. I got more I want to say than I can do in 25 seconds. The last thing is I've been involved in the county's Vision Zero collaborative project since it started, and actually the definition around Vision Zero is zero fatalities, not zero collisions. And the idea is that we accept traffic fatalities as a part of our life. What if we designed our world as though they were unacceptable? And how do you change how you plan and build things is the kind of underlying focus on that. Okay, I could keep talking, but my time is up, so I'll stop.
Actually, if you could give Tarina your written documents, that would help. Thank you very much. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, so with that, any final questions or comments? No, I think that's it. Thank you very much. I like the logo, and I like thinking about reusing it. Saves money. So with that, we'll move on to item 7.2, which is a study session, 2023 General Plan Annual Review, Inclusionary Housing and Growth Management Annual Review Report. And Sheila Wolski will be doing the presentation.
Okay, great. Looks like we're all set up. Good afternoon, Chair Weeks and Planning Commissioners. I'm Sheila Wolski, planner with the Planning and Economic Development Department, and I'm presenting the city's 2023 General Plan Inclusionary Housing and Growth Management Annual Review Report this afternoon. The purpose of this report is to provide a status on the city's progress towards implementation of the general plan's policies and goals during calendar year 2023. We've already received some feedback on the report, which I will address during this presentation. If there are additional questions tonight, please let me know. After you receive and accept the report, it will go before the City Council as a consent calendar item. This report is mandated by government codes, which require this report be provided to local legislative bodies, after which it will be submitted to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, also known as OPR, and the state's Housing and Community Development Department, also known as HCD. Okay, this is our next slide, and this is annual residential permits issued. This chart provides you with information on residential building permit activity for 2023. This also gives you an idea of building permit activity year over year for the past 6 years. As you can see, 2023 was a very busy year. The breakdown of these 1,708 units is as follows. 1,376 residential units were for multifamily structures with 5 units or more. 9 residential units were for multifamily structures of 2 to 4 units. 57 units for single-family attached. 112 units for single-family detached. And 154 residential units for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and that also includes junior accessory dwelling units. In terms of inclusionary housing, this permit activity includes the following affordable units. 12 units targeted for extremely low-income households, 173 units targeted for very low-income households, 198 targeted for low income, 73 units for moderate income, and 1,252 units targeted for above moderate rate income households. This slide features some of the residential housing projects that are in various stages of the planning and/or building process. Quartera in the upper left-hand corner is now being marketed as Renata at Perennial Park and is not yet constructed. This is one of 2 projects at the former Journey's End Mobile Home Park site. Fountain Grove Inn Apartments at the corner of Mendocino Avenue and Fountain Grove Parkway is currently under construction. This project will provide 239 units of rental apartments spread out over 6 3 to 5 story buildings. 38 Degrees North continues with its phased build-out of multifamily apartments on its almost 16-acre site on Petaluma Hill Road. Phases 2 and 3 are currently in the building permit process and will provide an additional 202 rental units. And so for a little bit of clarification, the other project at the former Journey's End Mobile Home Park site is called Laurel at Perennial Park. And this is dedicated affordable senior housing. This project is constructed. And there were several other questions that were posed regarding information included in the housing element implementation measures, which I'll address now. And there are no slide photos to address these, so I'll just run right through these. The first is a request for an update on the city's efforts to adopt a missing middle housing ordinance. The city is currently reviewing an administrative draft of the ordinance, which will be available to the public for review later this year. The missing middle program will be included for adoption as part of the General Plan 2050 adoption in early 2025. The second is a request for a map of the neighborhood revitalization program area And in response to this, staff will provide a webpage link to the Neighborhood Revitalization Program webpage, which also includes a map to this defined area. Third was a question regarding how implementation measure H2, lot consolidation and small site development, might work. In response, staff will be researching options with the housing element consultant to generate ideas to implement this measure. Fourth, there was interest in details on implementation measure H10. This fell under code enforcement activities, which includes growth of the Neighborhood Revitalization Program to include a new bilingual outreach position with grant funding. In response, the city is looking into potential ombudsman grant funds to provide additional bilingual outreach support. And once more information is available, staff will provide updates as necessary. And finally, there was a question about the use of the adjective affluent in implementation measure H21 that addressed funding for affordable housing development. And in response, this adjective will be revised to high resource areas, which is a term consistent with the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee and HCD language. Okay, on to our next slide. California mandates that each jurisdiction create its fair share of housing, also called the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, which is part of housing element law. As part of the RHNA, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, determines the total number of new homes the Bay Area needs to build and how affordable those homes need to be. ABAG, or the Association of Bay Area Governments, distributes the region's housing need to each city, town, and county in the region. On February 14th, 2023, the City Council adopted the Cycle 6 housing element, which was certified by HCD on April 7th, 2023. This regulates housing needs and policies from its certification date through January 2031. You'll note the 1,700 number in the total issued building permits in the lower right column row is different than the 1,708 number in slide 2. This is because the RHNA cycle began January 31st, 2023. So the city couldn't count those 8 residential units that were issued between January 1st and January 30th. This table compares the ABAG's RHNA numbers for Santa Rosa with building permit issuance by income category to illustrate the remaining need. And as the table demonstrates, great progress is being made by the city to meet its RHNA. Now on to some of the other elements in the general plan. This slide combines both the land use and urban design elements and features 2 projects that recently received planning approval. The first is the zones. This is formerly known as the Boys and Girls Club on Hallman Drive in the Montgomery Village area. This project received design review approval for exterior improvements to the facility. And I'd also like to note that there are some very nice interior improvements that are being done as well. The other project is the Ceres Community Project on Apollo Way, which also received design review approval for a brand new facility to provide production and distribution of medically tailored meals, as well as youth development. Both these land use permitted projects will provide landscaping and parking lot improvements required through the design review approval process and are eligible to submit their building permit applications. The economic vitality element of the general plan addresses business climate, workforce retention, workforce attraction, and the vitality of the city's commercial centers. Some things to note in this area: during 2023, the unemployment rate in Santa Rosa dropped to 4.7%. Job growth was seen in various industries, including leisure and hospitality, construction, healthcare, and social services. However, dips in job opportunities were seen in retail, professional and business sectors, and the biggest decline was seen in farm jobs. The graph on this slide shows an 8-quarter vacancy chart for office, industrial, and retail throughout Sonoma County, which provides a good idea of where things stand regionally for these industries. Of these 3 industries, retail continues to see the most significant vacancies, which are still on the rise. The photo on the right side of the slide shows a new wayfinding sign in the downtown. During 2023, staff worked on a pilot program for commercial wayfinding signs, as well as a public civic wayfinding sign program for the downtown Courthouse Square area. Okay, so for the youth and family element, there are a few programs highlighted on this slide. The city's Violence Prevention Partnership, also known as the Partnership, works with Clean Slate Tattoo Removal Program, which is a program that provides gang tattoo removal services. And last year's report included an update on the inception of a children's college savings accounts. This program is seeded with almost $1.6 million of ARPA funds. That was a stimulus bill to aid public health and economic recovery in response to COVID. That was approved by council in 2021. This program is managed in conjunction with First Five of Sonoma County. And to date, over $1.1 million in funds have been expended and 980 children's college savings accounts have been opened. These are accounts which can be added to and grown over time by parents to help fund college for their children. Another bright spot in 2023 for the youth and family element was city staff stepping in to host the Cinco de Mayo special event last year in Roseland at Matote Food Park. When staff were notified that the customary community event organizers were unable to host the event, the partnership staff managed to, in only 2 weeks, plan and host this event. The 2023 event attracted 26 vendors, kids' activity areas, 4 bands, and an estimated 1,500 attendees. To address a couple questions about the report following publication, it was noted that some of the projects, particularly those that were done in collaboration with First Five, were listed in a couple different sections of the report. This is true, and the reason for this repetition is these programs address general plan goals and policies in both the economic vitality element and the youth and family elements, so they were included in both areas. There was also a request in the violence prevention section of this element to use more specific language regarding the tragic fatal stabbing at Montgomery High School in March 2023. That language will be revised in the report that goes to council. Okay, on to the transportation element. The general plan declares a vision for Santa Rosa where complete streets provide safe access for pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and transit users of all ages and abilities. This slide contains a list of many, but not all, of the bicycle and pedestrian improvement highlights from 2023 that implement the city's general plan goals and policies. And I'm sure many of you have seen these improvements and people using these facilities as you've made your way through the city. Oops, I think I lost a slide. I went too far. Okay, here we go. Now we're on to transit. Okay, and continuing with, thank you, Jess. Continuing with this element are notable statistics from transit, some of which are listed on this slide. I'd like to highlight that the You Are Free program, which was initiated in 2021, provides free rides to youth on Santa Rosa City Bus. In addition to free rides, it familiarizes children with the transit system and gets them comfortable with using the system, which hopefully will continue through adulthood. Prior to this program, youth ridership was 198,000 rides per year, and remarkably, 390,000 youth trips were taken last year, in only the 3rd year of the You Are Free program. And I always like to make a pitch for anyone who doesn't know. People should be aware that SRJC students, veterans, Medicare card holders, low-income adults, and persons with a disability are eligible for discounted or free fares on Santa Rosa City Bus. All right, we are now at the Public Services and Facilities element, which deals in part with city facilities, including acquisition, development, and maintenance of facilities, and in this area, highlights city parks. Several important projects are taking place, only some of which are highlighted on this slide. And staff is aware that the community is very interested in the improvements at the Finley Aquatic Center. These include pool decking replacement, replastering the pools, replacing the existing wading pool, construction of a spray ground, new landscaping, a multi-generation water feature, and ADA improvements. Park staff is hoping the aquatic facility construction will be complete by early this summer. And a question was posed about the Kiwanis Springs Community Garden, not featured on this slide, but in the report. This park is located east of Petaluma Hill Road on the south side of Kiwanis Springs Road. The community garden is projected to utilize approximately 3/4 of an acre and does have the potential to hold 100 community garden plots. However, Parks is going to be doing some outreach to gauge actual interest from that community to see if there's a desire for that number of plots and to see what the sizing could be. Okay, Public Services and Facilities element also includes police services and fire protection to ensure the safety of local residents. This slide focuses on service calls and various statistics related to safety, and clearly both departments are very busy with calls. You can read the statistics on the slide. However, I would like to highlight the in-response program. The police department led the creation of the in-response mental health support team in 2022 and continues to manage the program. This is a multidisciplinary mental health response team comprised of a licensed mental health clinician, a fire department paramedic, and a homeless engagement specialist who deals with individuals taking a mental health first approach. The team is further supported by system navigators who help those in need navigate the complexities of the county mental health system and assist them in connecting with resources. Okay, and to finish out the Public Services and Facilities element, the report touched on 2023 updates from the subcategories of water supply, water conservation and efficiency, and wastewater. This slide highlights some of the truly astounding processing capabilities at the city's Laguna treatment plant, and also how ongoing capital improvement projects at the site can further improve operations and efficiencies. Water efficiency education outreach and water rebate programs have been a part of Santa Rosa Water for over 30 years and have led to per capita water use decline of 44% since 1990. The open space and conservation element includes goals and policies related to open space and natural resource conservation. General plan goals and policies support creating new public access trails to maximize the benefits of open space. Conservation of natural and biological resources and waterways, and the promotion of energy and water efficiency and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. To this end, the city's Creek Stewardship Program continued its collaboration with the community and volunteers, removing massive amounts of trash and helping to restore creeks and trails. The general plan arts and culture element calls for public art throughout Santa Rosa. Because of this, every year we get to provide beautiful slide photos of the latest new pieces and/or restored artwork. The piece on the left is a Gilded Rose mural right here at City Hall. And if you're interested in visiting any of these pieces, which are all free to view, the city has a map of public art pieces on the city's website. The noise and safety element is next. This slide provides some highlights related to development of a hazardous vegetation and fuels management ordinance that'll be ushered in by the fire department, as well as acceptance of the final water supply alternative plan. The latter will look at options to increase the city's water supply and enhance resiliency and reliability. Also, we're again very grateful to note there were no incidents in 2023 that required activation of the city's Emergency Operations Center. The city's general plan policy calls for preserving Santa Rosa's historic structures and neighborhoods. In this vein, work on the downtown station area historic resources evaluation was completed in 2023, and the report was scheduled for acceptance by the Cultural Heritage Board in January 2024. And in total, for 2023, 9 landmark alteration permit applications were submitted. The climate change section is actually under the open space and conservation element, and the city has 2 separate climate action plans that work in concert with the city's climate change policies. Additionally, the city's climate action subcommittee continues to meet monthly to receive updates on climate-related information as it pertains to the city. As noted on the slide, the Community Climate Action Plan will be updated as part of the city's general plan update. And the slide includes a couple of bicycle transportation updates that are noteworthy. Results from the city's first installation of a 2-way cycle track on Armory Drive and bicycle-friendly designations for the city. Okay, on to growth management, which was added to the city's general plan as a separate optional element in 1991 in response to record growth in the mid-1980s. The city's growth management ordinance regulates residential growth by allowing 800 new residential allotments per year and anticipates this development pace would result in a population of 237,000 by the year 2035. Growth management allotments are available from 2 reserves, Reserve A and B, each reserve having 400 new allotments per year. Reserve A allotments are for housing products such as accessory dwelling units, mixed-use units, and attached multifamily. Reserve B allotments are for single-family units over 1,250 square feet. In 2023, 1,708 residential building permits were issued, and of these permits, 1,596 were Reserve A qualifying units, and 112 were Reserve B qualifying units. The inclusionary housing ordinance requires that housing projects include on-site affordable housing units or the payment of what's called in lieu funds, which are used for affordable housing development. Allocated units are for newly constructed for rent or for sale dwelling units, which are made available and occupied by a household of lower or moderate income and subject to occupancy and affordable rent or sales price controls for a period of not less than 55 years. When the city receives housing impact fees, money collected from the inclusionary housing ordinance is directed to the city's housing authority, which administers these funds. During 2023, a total of 456 allocated units were issued building permits. A couple of these projects are highlighted on this slide and include Caritas Village and Amorosa Village. Okay, so much of the information shared here tonight is also shared throughout the year via the city's City Connections newsletter. You can access this letter. The web URL is listed at the top of the slide, and you can also view recent editions of the newsletter. On this webpage, you can also subscribe to the free newsletter and have it come right to your inbox. And there are options to sign up for more custom options. For instance, if you'd like to sign up for Planning Commission or Design Review Board or bicycle updates, you can do that on the website and get those agendas and find out what's happening in the city based on your personal interest. This concludes the report section, and with that, it is recommended by the Planning and Economic Development Department that the Planning Commission receive and approve the 2023 General Plan Inclusionary Housing and Growth Management Annual Review Report. Here's my contact information. I'm available for questions, and we should have staff available from Stormwater and Creeks, Transportation, and Economic Development here or via Zoom tonight. If we can't answer your questions, we'll let you know and get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to start off by saying thank you for addressing my questions. I appreciate that. So are there any questions by my fellow commissioners? Vice Chair Duggan?
Yeah, I had a couple. One of them is it's after being on the commission so many years, it's wonderful to see all these housing units being built, because so many of them have been permitted over the years and not gone forward. But there's so many apartment buildings being built and so many that are billing themselves as luxury units. Do we have an idea, even like anecdotally, how many are going to be more affordable by design? And I guess my concern or comment is that, are we really going to be able to tenant all these luxury units? So that's just a comment question. And the other one was way more specific than that. I'm looking for it in the report here. Of course, it's way at the end. Okay, so under H5 on page 49, I believe, yeah. Accessory dwelling units. The city continues to support the Napa-Sonoma ADU Center's pre-reviewed plans. So does that mean that the city will accept the pre-reviewed plans and not require people to make changes to them?
I can address the one on the accessory dwelling units. So there is a new assembly bill that is going to go into effect, I believe it's January 1st, 2025, where cities will actually be required to have pre-approved plans on their website. Those plans with the Napa-Sonoma ADU Center are pre-reviewed. People have to actually pay the designer, do other things to actually get a hold of those plans. So what Santa Rosa is working on, and we're hoping to do this perhaps in collaboration with other cities in Sonoma County, is to get a series of plans available that will already be inspected up to current codes, and then there may just be certain site information that may need to be done, such as a soils report to get that ADU placed on the site. And then in terms of, and we are seeing many multifamily. Internally, we don't really use the term affordable by design, because unless there's actually a deed restriction, it's not subject to any affordability controls. And we can't manage that or control the rent on that, so we don't use that term in-house.
So I will just add to that. So we are seeing a lot of new multifamily projects being submitted to the city that will have smaller units, not necessarily deed restricted, but smaller, and so theoretically perhaps less costly than a larger unit. Generally speaking, the multifamily projects that come through are not coming to the Planning Commission. They are either going to the Design Review Board, or if they are located in one of our priority development areas, they're going to the zoning administrator for review and approval. But certainly something that the commission can keep an eye on, and if you are interested in updates on any of those projects, we can bring that to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
I mean, hopefully an easy question. On page 19, most of the parks looked like they had construction dates, with the exception of the Southeast Greenway, which is still looking at an environmental impact report. I'm just wondering, what's the timeline on that? Any breaking ground we could see in 2020 something?
So there's a lot of steps that need to go before we can get going with the Southeast Greenway Park. Right now, the big news is that we are nearly in possession of the property right now. So it has taken us a long time, as you all are aware, to get to the point where the city could purchase the property. And so we are about to that point, and I'm pretty sure I heard the other night at council that our assistant city manager, Nutt, is going to be headed to the meeting where the Caltrans powers that be, whatever their board is called, is going to be approving that sale to the city. The next steps in that process is to work with the Parks Department to prepare a master planning process, and so that will go through its process. And I see Jill Scott up there. I don't know if you know any more than I do on that, but it's a master planning process that will take some time to go through, work with the community before a park could start construction, and then we'll also need to figure out funding for that as well. So I think we're still a little ways off, but certainly we can bring updates to the commission on that as well.
Thank you.
And I think I also heard the other night that there are going to be goats and sheep grazing on it to keep the weeds down. So your son might be interested in taking a look at those. So any other questions? Commissioner Sanders.
On page 18, we're talking about Fremont Park updates. There were plans drawn for that park. I think there were 3 plans, if I'm not mistaken. We're still operating from those 3 plans moving forward? Or are we doing new plans?
Excuse me, can you let me know, I just have my PowerPoint up. Which park are you referencing?
Fremont Park, which is
Fremont.
on 4th and Hope, Cancer Survivor Park,
Yeah.
sometimes called.
I don't have that information, but I can get in touch with park staff and get back to you on that directly.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, sorry. Let's see, the missing middle draft ordinance, will that be coming to us? And if you already said that, I apologize.
Yes, as an ordinance, it will be adding language to in a missing middle section to our zoning ordinance, which the Planning Commission has purview over. So yes, the commission will be the first line. It will, as mentioned, the process will be coupled with the general plan update process, so that will be coming as a large package to the Planning Commission in early 2025 for recommendation to the City Council. We don't have specifics lined up, but with that one, because it's such a new process, we will likely be considering doing a study session with the Commission to get early feedback before we bring you a final version.
Thank you. I know that recently there have been a couple of strategic plans that have been approved by council. There was, I think, the Violence Prevention Partnership Plan and the Economic Development Plan, and I wondered if those should be referenced in somewhere in this report with links to those. And I can't remember if those occurred this year or last year, so anyway, whatever year they occur that this report covers, I think that would be a good idea so people can have that reference point.
Yeah, so we can check on the violence prevention one. I don't know if that was last year or this year, and if it was last year, we can certainly add that. The economic development strategic plan was adopted this year, so we will make sure it's added to next year's.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question has to do with the high-resourced areas. And you said that that's a definition from tax credits. And I wondered if those areas do coincide with what was in the portrait of Sonoma County, or if the state has totally different areas. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine. You can get back to us at a later date. If it's not that important, but I just was curious.
Right, so yes, so when we talk about high resource areas, so for the Tax Credit Allocation Committee and HCD, when they're looking at these areas for opportunities for affordable housing, high resource areas, and I actually wrote this down because I wanted to know as well. There are areas that could provide better outcomes for residents in these affordable housing projects, for lack of a better word. And those are areas that could have one or more of the following conditions: a concentration of employment opportunities, access to high-performing educational facilities, positive environmental conditions, generally good housing conditions, low rates of overpayment, that would be mortgage, rental, and low rates of overpayment and overcrowding compared to the rest of the city, and access to transit options. I may have forgotten one in there, but those were the ones that I was able to find today from the TCAC site.
So it sounds like some of those are similar.
Yeah.
So, okay. So any other questions before I open the public comment period? So open the public comment period, not seeing anybody rise, our one public member left. So with that, I'll close the public comment period. And do you have what you need from us, Sheila?
I do, and just to let you know, those revisions will be made for the council item, so you can see those in their upcoming report if you're curious. Those will be on consent calendar, and then after that, they'll get submitted to OPR and HCD as we're required to do.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, and thank you to the other department staff that was here, I appreciate that. So for that, we will move on to item 10.1. And welcome back, Jandon, it's nice to see you. So item 10.1 is public hearing, Hollyhock subdivision, tentative map extension exempt project. It's at 1650 Meta Avenue, EXT 24-0002 and EXT 24-0003. And this is an ex parte item, so we'll start with Commissioner Sanders.
I have visited the site and have nothing to disclose.
Thank you. Commissioner Carter.
I have nothing to disclose on this item.
Thanks. Commissioner Peterson.
I have nothing to disclose.
Vice Chair Duggan.
I have nothing to disclose.
And I visited the site again and have nothing to disclose. So with that, Jandon, take it away.
Good evening, Chair Weeks, members of the commission, staff, and members of the public who are here. And my name is Janet Briscoe, and I'm here to present the Hollyhock subdivision, and this is the second time extension. And as Chair Weeks said, this project is located at 1650 Meade Avenue. August 10th, 2017, the Planning Commission approved the tentative map and conditional use permit for Hollyhock subdivision, which would divide a 2-acre parcel into 16 family small lots. On August 24th, 2023, the Planning Commission approved a 1-year time extension for the project. That was the last time I was here. And I just want to say that the conditional use permit is required for this because is required for this project because a small lot subdivision is unique to the city of Santa Rosa, and we required a conditional use permit for those. And before the Planning Commission today, as I said, it's the second 1-year time extension for Hollyhock subdivision, tentative map, and this will extend the expiration date from February 10, 2024 to February 10, 2025. And here is an aerial view of where the site is located. And as you can see, the site is along Meade Avenue and Brookwood Avenue. and this is in the southeastern quadrant of Santa Rosa. And the zoning land use designation is R-1-6, and general plan land use designation is low density residential. And both of these land use designations are intended for single family homes, which this project is going to be. And here is a picture of the approved tentative map that council approved in 2017. And as you can see, there's 16 lots, and Hollyhock Place is going to go along in the middle of these lots. And this project is exempt from SEQA for it's considered infill development and is consistent with the general plan. Thus, it is recommended by Planning and Economic Development Department that the Planning Commission approve a second one-year time extension for the Hollyhock tentative map, extending the expiration date to February 10, 2025. And I don't see Mr. Futrell here, but this is my contact information if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. If you have a comment you'd like to make, please go to one of the podiums and state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a button on the side there if you want to raise it.
That's fine. Mic doesn't, is the mic working?
Yes.
Yes, my name's Larry Corbin. I live at 1770 Mead Avenue, just south of this project. We've been dealing with this project now for over 3 years. There have done quite a bit of work this year, but we have no sidewalks on that side of the street other than the ones that they're going to put in front of the subdivision. There is no crosswalks to get from the subdivision to the existing sidewalks on the west. And on the Brookwood side, there is an asphalt curb and what is considered an asphalt walkway. As the neighbors, we're concerned about traffic coming on to 2 streets that have become very useful here lately with other traffic conditions, and the safety of people walking to and from the subdivision to get to some type of public access. We would like to see some information on what's going to happen in the subdivision, and if we have any additional time frame. As we said, we've been waiting 3 years so far. I do believe this is either the 4th extension that they have requested, and I believe I was at the August meeting and they were allowed to have 5 extensions. And I could be wrong about that, but that was my understanding at the meeting that I attended. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this item and bring it back to the commission. Could you address kind of the time frame of the project, and if you know when it will start? That one question, and the second question is this the 4th extension?
I can answer the second question. This is the 2nd extension.
Okay. And then the issue of time, do you have any idea from the developer or applicant when the project is going to start?
Not when it's going to start. However, I did email Mr. Futrell. He said the site is being paved right now, and the applicant reached out to the engineering department regarding the bonding agreements for the final map.
Okay. Any question? Oh, Commissioner Peterson.
I apologize if I missed it. How many total extensions can you get to a tentative map?
It's 4 extensions, I believe.
Yeah, and just a quick clarification, Susie Murray, supervising planner, just let me know. So there were 2 automatic time extensions that were authorized through our resilient city development measures, which were added, I believe, due to the fires and COVID situation. So they did receive that, so that may be what was being referenced.
So those 2 plus 4,
So
or 6 total?
Yeah, those 2, I don't know if, including those? So those 2 automatic, so it gets a little confusing. The state sometimes will provide automatic extensions which do not add to the ones that are allowed by the MAP Act. But in this case, the 2 automatic extensions that were approved or were allotted through the Resilient City Development measures do count towards what they can get through the MAP Act.
Okay, so how many are left? I've lost the plot here.
There's 2 left. Our zoning code gives up to 4 one-year extensions for tentative maps.
So there's 1 more that's left.
Okay. Thank you.
After today's action.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Carter?
And the extensions are limited to 1 year, so that's why it had to come back again, correct?
That is correct.
Vice Chair Duggan? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Carter, sorry.
Do we have any sense from the developer if he'll need further extensions?
No, I didn't get any inclination from Mr. Futrell that he'll require another extension, no.
And just for clarification for the members of the public, are there other pending projects on the adjacent non-built parcels that will come forward sometime, in the near future that's going to provide the sidewalk on that side of the street?
Not that we're aware of.
And do you happen to know if, I should have asked this before and I didn't, in the city's CIP projects, are there any, is that road slated for improvement at all with sidewalks anytime in CIP, or is it going to be contingent upon when development comes in?
That is an excellent question that we don't have an answer to right now, but we can certainly provide a response to the commission.
Okay, and if you also could, that would be great if you could just give us an update on that. Thanks.
Yes, we'll do.
Any other questions? Okay, so with that, if somebody would make a motion. Oh, Vice Chair Duggan.
I'll move a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Rosa approving a second one-year time extension for the tentative map for the Hollyhock subdivision located at 1650 Mita Avenue, Assessor's Parcel Number 044-032-006, File Number EXT24-002, and waive further reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so that was moved by Vice Chair Duggan, seconded by Commissioner Sanders. So we'll start with Commissioner Sanders for comments.
I guess I don't really have much comment to provide. I mean, this seems pretty straightforward. We're in the proper amount of extensions, so I'll be supporting the project, the extension.
Commissioner Carter?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add, and I can make the necessary findings to approve the extension.
Commissioner Peterson?
Well, as with the Southeast Greenway, I'm always in favor of things actually getting done. So I can make the findings required for it, but I do hope that it gets built without another extension.
Vice Chair Duggan?
I too can make all the required findings, so I'm in support of the project.
And I also can make the required findings. So with that, that was moved by Vice Chair Duggan and seconded by Commissioner Sanders.
Ready for a vote?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Duggan.
Aye.
Chair Weeks.
Aye. So that passes with 5 ayes. Commissioner Cisco absent and 1 vacancy. And please note that this action is final unless an appeal is filed with the city clerk's office within 10 calendar days of today's decision pursuant to zoning code section 20-62.030. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting today. Thank you all.